Okay, so about a month ago, I bought the 65-inch TCL C7L to replace my 8-year-old TV that had started to randomly shut itself off. And I've pretty much been using it every day since to get a proper real-world feel for this TV long term, especially after the unboxing day excitement wore off. I gotta tell you that this TV has been an amazing upgrade in many ways. Take the size for example, coming from a 55-inch, you wouldn't think it would be that big of a difference, but it legit took me a few days to get used to the size. It felt like I was having to actively move my eyes around to get full view of the screen. Even some of my family commented on that very same thing. Coupling that with how bright the TV can get, it's honestly like getting flashbanged right in the face sometimes with certain scene changes. The TV gets ridiculously bright to the point where I've found myself grinning ear to ear at times at the difference between this and my old Sony. But I have to be honest and say that I found myself mostly using it at like 50 to 70% brightness because honestly, it's too bright for my environment, but there's more on that later. Anyway, a definite improvement has been the colors and black levels on this thing. Oh man, the colors. Look, the TV has quite a few different color profile modes based on what input and what kind of video file you're watching. From basic settings like Vivid, Standard, Movie, Intelligent, and Filmmaker, to specific ones like Game, PC, Dolby Vision, and even IMAX profiles. I found that most of the time I have been using it in intelligent mode when watching TV shows or especially YouTube, while keeping the brightness at 50%, and the color reproduction has been exceptional. If you prefer a more saturated look, you can go to vivid mode, but I feel that it's a bit overtuned in my opinion at least. But keep in mind though, every one of these profiles can be tinkered and further adjusted. And also keep in mind that every input saves its own profile. So if you set Filmmaker while watching Amazon Prime and you switch to regular TV, you need to update that input unless you set it to universally update in picture settings across all inputs. Another thing that is definitely noticeable with this TV is just how fast the Google TV operating system is. My old TV would have taken a few seconds to turn on and another few seconds to load up and start responding to navigating the home hub. But this TV, it turns on from standby within a second and it's ready to take off straight away. It loads up apps from the quick buttons of the remote almost instantly and swaps between streaming services very smoothly. Black levels is another thing that's, well, on another level. Look, don't get me wrong, it's no OLED, but it definitely is an improvement with these Super Quantum Dot Mini LED panels, and it's noticeably better than the standard QLED panel on the P7K that I've got in my studio. Take just the blue and black loading screen for Amazon Prime for example. Now I'm not sure if this will accurately translate on camera, but you truly get deeper blacks with hardly any backlight glow with the C7L when comparing to the standard QLED panel on the P7K. Sound is another thing that's been amazing overall. I've used the soundbar for the last 8 years with my previous TV, but I didn't set it up this time, mainly because, well, it used to sit on top of the TV unit behind my TV, but now with the TCL stand, which takes up the whole unit and is solid all the way through, I didn't really have anywhere else to place it on the unit, so I went without. But honestly, I haven't felt like I've had the need for it. The built-in 4-speak and Bang & Olufsen system is amazing. The depth, the bass levels, even the wider sound that it can produce have made for an amazing viewing experience, which is all great, except for a few times where I have heard the speakers peak, especially when it's low to mid volumes when, say, an explosion happens or there's a laughing track that's playing. The speakers peak to a very high volume for a split second, and it did happen a few times. I am hopeful that this can be fixed with a software update, so I'm still going to count the overall audio quality as a win. Now, something that I was pretty eager to check was how the TV would handle my PC. So I hooked it up, and after finding my preferred scaling percentage, the first thing I did was check text clarity, and this thing's pretty immaculate. Sitting behind my coffee table about 2 meters away from the screen, everything was crystal clear, and honestly, it was actually clearer and easier to read than my 1440p WOLED monitor. I didn't feel any eye strain or like I had to get used to it at all. But of course, the whole point with this test was to see how the TV would handle PC gaming. I can finally say that I've gotten a taste of what 4K PC gaming is like. Granted, I've only got an RTX 3060 Ti, and with DLSS on, I was getting just over 50 frames on Forza Horizon 6 and somewhere around 60 to 70 or so on Marvel Rivals, but hey, that was good enough for me to finally enjoy some 4K PC gaming. I know I keep saying it, but the clarity, it's not like anything that I had experienced with PC gaming before. I was quite happy and I thought I may need to keep my PC here to enjoy some games, but that was until I gave Halo a crack and realized that my system couldn't really handle 4K even with DLSS, as it was dropping below 30 frames per second. A shame. Look, there's a bit more to it all with HDR and I'll talk about that in a while. But yeah, look, most of the time I am watching YouTube videos over anything else, and the TV does an amazing job with the picture quality when I'm watching some of the videos from my favorite creators. Everything's evenly exposed, the colors are very well lit and balanced against the blacks, the grays and the whites, and the clarity is just insane. But in saying all of that, there's just a few things that you need to know about. Like, take the picture modes for example. You'll find that anything you want to watch on any service or input that supports Dolby Vision gives you the Dolby Vision IQ and bright options. These modes basically try to smoothen out the image quality, almost remove a lot of the cinematic film grain, while pumping up or generating additional frame rates to give it a more smoother look, like as if you're watching videos on Instagram or something rather than watching a cinematic production. I found these settings pump up the brightness and contrast across darker sections of the image, and it boosts colors, which, don't get me wrong, does look good in its own right, but it practically removes the whole intended cinematic experience while watching certain movies. Now, it does a lot of this by enabling motion clarity settings, and I'll talk a little bit more about that later, but at times it does produce some ghosting depending on what is happening on screen. I've found personally, I prefer to keep movies in filmmaker mode as it disables any smoothing or motion clarity settings, and it leaves the movie in its intended 24 frames per second with natural film grain. Dark shadows are also true to cinema, but it does make the picture a bit warmer. Now, all of this honestly comes down to personal preference, but just keep in mind that you can make further micro adjustments to most picture profiles, which is one of the biggest things that I've found with this TV. I've been making picture adjustments on everything that I've watched for one reason or another, especially with brightness settings. I've tinkered around with various brightness settings a lot in the last month, and some advice that I can provide is it's going to be a balancing act. Now, the general settings that I've found that look good across multiple inputs and apps is keeping brightness at 50% and enabling peak brightness to high. This way, I've found an even brightness across the display while keeping colors and clarity consistent, and the TV displays sufficiently bright enough during the day without overexposing whites in certain scenes. As I said earlier, the TV can get crazy super bright, especially if you turn off the auto brightness settings in eye protection. You set peak brightness to high and brightness to 100%. So depending on what you're watching, you will notice anything overly lit in the show or movie become overexposed and the highlights will blow out. Like, take this scene from The Big Bang Theory. You can see the studio lights reflecting off the actors' heads, and this happens by setting all brightness settings to its absolute maximum capabilities. It's like TCL have given you the keys to a supercar and given you full access to all of its power, which a lot of other manufacturers don't do. This is why I say that keeping it at 50% brightness for most of the time, you can't really go wrong. Now, something that I've had a second lease at is HDR content. If you've been watching the channel for a while now, you will know that I've always said I personally do not like how any HDR content looks on any device. Well, first, please make sure you subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. But second, that may have changed now, because previously I had only my P7K and my LG OLED monitor that was HDR compatible, and while some of the scenes in either content or games looked better than others, most looked washed out even after calibrating through the PS5 or PC system settings. However, now with this C7L, after some extended use, I've found a lot of HDR content actually looks good and actually improves some of the brightness highlights issues that I mentioned earlier. Look, as I originally said, some colors I think still do look a little desaturated, but overall HDR on this TV has been an improvement over my previous experiences at least. Even when gaming on PC and having HDR active on Windows and enabling it within Forza, I had a balanced overall experience, which was great to see. One thing to know though is that when you activate the game bar settings, which is where you can turn on things like ALLM and VRR and change picture quality settings to FPS or RPG game modes, it's also where you can toggle the on-screen frames counter. The thing with this though is that it's likely just showing you a maximum frame count that the connected device can output rather than a live count. As you can see here in Forza, I have my Nvidia FPS overlay on, and while that is fluctuating through 50 frames, the TV is displaying 120. Now, this game bar is where you can set those FPS or RPG game modes that I mentioned, and these modes seriously boost color saturation and vibrancy and sharpness. I think that this will all come down to personal preferences, but I feel like it's a bit too much, so I mostly kept games on original mode. As far as regular TV goes, honestly, I hardly ever watch regular TV, but I did check it out. Watching a show like Friends on free-to-air TV, you can definitely tell the picture quality is downgraded compared to streaming it on Amazon Prime, but this is because of broadcasting limitations. Regular TV, at least in Australia, is mostly broadcast at 1080i or lower, and in order to get a constant feed out to millions of viewers, it would be broadcast at lower bandwidth. Almost the entire broadcasting infrastructure to your TV is over the air or wireless, which is why the quality is worse than streaming apps. Friends on Amazon Prime is a lot clearer as your TV is playing back the signal at a much higher bitrate over the internet, which uses practically fully wired connections to your home at least. Therefore, it relays a stronger signal and plays back at much higher quality. So the quality is not really an issue with the TV, rather just how the technology works. And some of you guys wanted to know how the TV performed with handling motion when watching sports on free-to-air channels. And I have to be honest here, I'm not a sports guy. Other than F1, I don't watch or keep up with any sports. So I've got no idea when games are broadcast over regular TV to have tested it, and I didn't get around to doing that. I'd rather be honest and upfront on that here. Alright, I think we can all agree that I've glazed the TV enough. So now I'm going to be real with you and tell you about a few things that I've noticed over the last month. And I'm going to preface all of this by saying that this SQD-Mini LED technology is in its first generation with this year's TCL's TV lineup. So take all of this with a grain of salt like you would with any first generation technology. Also keep in mind that this video is recorded and uploaded in 24 frames per second. So let's start with the TV's motion handling. The C7L motion clarity options have a few levels that you can choose from, and what it basically does is generate frames to make scenes look smoother or with better motion, but it comes at a cost. Depending on what you're watching, you may experience some screen tearing or, more noticeably, some ghosting or artifacts on screen. It mostly happens during fast-paced scenes, and it happens more the stronger the setting that you apply. For example, when you have Dolby Vision IQ picture mode on, watching Masters of the Universe, you can see it occur in the training scene between father and son. But that's just one example. It happens throughout while watching movies, but more noticeably, it happens when playing games, especially those that are low light or loaded with special effects. After the first impressions video I uploaded a month ago, Super Yor commented asking to check Silent Hill out for how it handles ghosting or smearing. You can see here that when you're dense in the fog, there is a lot of artifacts around James. And when you enable motion clarity through the game bar, which the TV is supposed to improve jitters and make motion smoother by adding frame compensation, it actually creates more artifacts around James while you're panning the camera, and even around the environment while running around. Now, I'm not going to lie to you, that was all that I tested for Super Yor because I was terrified from this game. I actually didn't even sleep properly at night, but I'm grateful for the comment as it was an excellent thing to test. So thanks for that one, mate. The other thing is the viewing angles. TCL state that the C7L in the 65-inch model has a HVA 2.0 Pro panel with 178-degree viewing angles. I'm not going to pretend I have a deep technical understanding of the entirety of the technology, but I will say that the viewing angles on this are noticeably different depending on the angle you're watching from, and also on the content being viewed, which wasn't the issue with my 43-inch P7K that also has a HVA panel. It's mainly noticeable if there is a large amount of a single color on screen, like when I'm on a website with a lot of dead space on the edges, you can see the color shift towards the opposite end, and the overall brightness is dimmer too at an angle. It's more noticeable when you have a full white screen which starts to look a little purpley pink at an angle, and yellows start to look a little brown. This happens at extreme angles and while being close to the TV. Personally, I'm hardly ever in a position where I would naturally experience any of this, as my sofa faces the TV head on, so I'm always at an optimal viewing angle while watching TV. The only time that I can think of it being an issue is if you have a large corner sofa in your lounge room that goes right up to your TV. Whoever's sitting at the end may get the raw end of the deal. But again, it comes down to use case. Look, I'm not trying to justify any of this, but take the Samsung S26 Ultra's privacy display technology as a great example here of a first generation technology that actually has similar issues where the viewing angles on this phone are not as great compared to previous generations because of the very new technology. Same sort of deal here. I'm just telling you guys what I've experienced, and I hope in time as the technology advances, TCL implement improvements with it, because otherwise, it's an amazing TV. Anyway, overall, I am happy with my purchase because it's definitely been a massive upgrade over an 8-year-old TV. I've spent more time watching shows and movies and gaming in my living room in the last month than I have in the last 6 months. Despite the tweaks that I've had to perfect over the last month, the viewing angle issues and the motion clarity mechanics, I still feel like this TV has more points in the win column over anything else. I say this considering the cost of the TV being in the affordable premium range. Dollar for value, I'm quite happy with what I got for a little over 1,500 Australian dollars. Now before I wrap things up, I've got 2 bonus additions to this video. First, Michael commented on the unboxing video as well, stating that he would love to see how the PS3 looks with the 720p signal, and I have to admit that I was intrigued myself. So I hooked my console up, and after about an hour of updates, I was able to test it out with Gran Turismo 6. I was impressed with how it handled the 720p signal as well as it could, but it is still quite pixelated. Keeping in mind, each pixel is stretched across multiples to scale to the 4K display. I then checked out the OG GTA 5, and even that didn't look the best, but I soon after found a setting to enable super resolution that is supposed to help upscaling, which funnily enough can only be activated when game mode is off. Anyway, it did slightly improve the quality to a point where it was just acceptable enough if you wanted to keep playing. Actually, this made me realize something that the TV was missing, and I kind of have a gripe with it. There's no input for RCA connections like the P7K had. My poor retro consoles and my VCR are crying right now. Look, I'd imagine the quality would be terrible like any other modern TV, but hey, if you want to play retro consoles, you need to consider a HDMI to RCA kit in the mix to make it happen. The second bonus is a grey uniformity test, because I know some of you watching this would want to know how the panel performs, so here you guys go. Thanks for watching everyone, and I'll see you all next week.